Imagine the opulent ballroom, the glittering chandeliers, the soft strains of a string quartet. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and ambition, a familiar aroma in Eleanor Vance's world. She moved through the crowd at the annual Vance family gala, her emerald green gown shimmering under the lights, a forced smile plastered on her face. Her heels clicked softly against the polished marble, a rhythmic reminder of the path meticulously paved for her since birth. This was her world. High society galas, charitable events, and power broker mixers. Yet, beneath her poised exterior, a familiar ache resided, a hollow echo of loneliness. Eleanor Vance wasn't just from money, she was money. Born into the illustrious Vance dynasty, a name synonymous with prestige and power in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, she was a brilliant financial strategist, a graduate of Spelman College, and then earning her MBA from Harvard Business School. Her destiny, everyone agreed, was to ascend to the pinnacle of her family's healthcare investment empire. Her father, Reginald Vance, a titan of industry, had built their colossal wealth from the ground up, and her mother, Isabella, an influential patron of the arts, commanded respect in every room she entered. Eleanor had inherited their sharp intellect and keen eye for detail, but she had also inherited the unspoken burden of their name. Every success she achieved in the cutthroat world of finance was often dismissed by cynics as mere nepotism, a perk of being a Vance. And every rare misstep was dissected, scrutinized, and whispered about as a potential stain on the family's immaculate legacy. This wasn't just about money or status. It was about the profound struggle to be seen. Have you ever felt like you're playing a role, not living a life? That was Eleanor. She was a living embodiment of the Vance brand, a walking, talking marketing campaign. While others saw the successful, elegant heiress, Eleanor just saw the figurehead, a sculpted image, an extension of her family's immense wealth and reputation, rather than for the vibrant, curious, sometimes vulnerable woman she truly was. She yearned for someone to look past the millions, past the name, and truly see her. This silent craving, this desperate yearning for authentic connection became a quiet vulnerability, a door left slightly ajar in the fortress she had built around herself. And in a cruel twist of fate, it was precisely this vulnerability that would become her Achilles' heel. Sometimes, the biggest cages aren't made of iron bars, but of gilded expectations and inherited burdens. Understanding your true self-worth beyond the labels and legacies is the first crucial step to breaking free. It was at one of these very galas, amidst the clinking of champagne flutes and the drone of polite conversation, that she first saw him, Elias Thorne. He wasn't from old money. He was a rising star, a charismatic architect with a compelling vision for urban renewal. Unlike the polished, almost sterile men of her social circle, Elias possessed a raw, magnetic charm. He spoke of community projects in underserved neighborhoods, of building a legacy for others, not just himself. His crooked smile felt genuine in a sea of calculated grins, and his eyes seemed to hold a profound understanding, a depth that resonated with her quiet longing. It was intoxicating. He didn't seem impressed by her family's wealth, or at least, he didn't show it. He listened intently when she spoke about her passion for sustainable investment, asking probing questions that made her feel truly heard. He saw her, he claimed, for Eleanor, not just Eleanor Vance. This was the authentic connection she'd yearned for, wasn't it? She convinced herself it was. Even when her best friend, Maya, a sharp-witted attorney, voiced subtle doubts. He seems a little too perfect, Elle, and almost aggressively attentive. Don't you think? Eleanor brushed them aside. You just don't know him, Maya, she'd insisted, her heart already too invested in the fairy tale she believed was unfolding. Even her parents, with their quiet, discerning observations, expressed a cautious unease. But Eleanor, blinded by her desire for a different kind of love, dismissed their concerns as old-fashioned protectiveness. Your intuition is your first line of defense. Learn to listen to that quiet voice, that gut feeling, even when it's inconvenient, even when it challenges the beautiful narrative you've built in your mind. Eleanor was about to learn just how costly it could be to ignore that inner alarm. The gilded cage she sought to escape had merely been traded for a more insidious, invisible trap, one woven with threads of charm, manipulation, and a profound, chilling deception. And she was about to step right into it. Their honeymoon in Santorini was, on the surface, everything a fairy tale should be. Sun-drenched mornings overlooking the Aegean Sea, intimate dinners under a canopy of stars, and Elias, ever attentive, ever charming. Eleanor allowed herself to fall deeper, convincing herself that Maya's and her parents' misgivings were just the usual parental overprotectiveness, the slight jealousy of a best friend. This was it, she thought, the genuine connection she'd longed for, a love unburdened by the weight of her family name. But even amidst the idyllic beauty, the first subtle stings began. They were so small at first, so seemingly insignificant, that Eleanor dismissed them as playful teasing or Elias's quirky opinions. One evening, as he slipped into a stunning, flowing silk dress for dinner, Elias complimented her, his eyes tracing the lines of the fabric. Then he'd added, almost as an afterthought, "But don't you think that's a little too much? You don't want to seem like you're trying too hard." Later, if she shared an anecdote from her demanding day at Vance Healthcare Investments, he might chuckle dismissively, "You really get caught up in those corporate games, don't you? So much unnecessary stress." It was never a direct insult, but a constant, subtle chipping away at her choices, her style, her very personality. It was like he was trying to sand down her edges to make her fit into a mold he'd designed, a mold she hadn't even realized existed. This slow, insidious erosion of her self-esteem was a masterful, chilling tactic. It leaves you questioning yourself, doubting your own judgment, making you more susceptible to external influence. Then came the financial conversations. Elias, with his earnest eyes and confident demeanor, began to insist on managing their joint finances. "Eleanor, my darling," he'd begin, always with a charming smile, "let me handle the heavy lifting. It's my responsibility as your husband, to protect our assets, to build our future. You have enough on your plate with the firm." Eleanor, trusting him completely, agreed. After all, he was an architect, he understood complex systems, and she believed his intentions were pure. She had always managed her own vast wealth, but this felt like a romantic gesture, a sign of his commitment. The small things started accumulating. Unexplained withdrawals from their joint account, then larger ones. A new luxury sports car, gleaming and unannounced, appeared in their driveway. When Eleanor, accustomed to meticulous financial oversight, gently questioned him, Elias would laugh, a light, dismissive sound that sent a faint tremor down her spine. "Relax, babe," he'd say, "just making some smart investments. You'll thank me when they pay off, trust me." His explanations were always vague, always just convincing enough to quiet her analytical mind, to make her feel she was being overly cautious, perhaps even unloving. Many victims of financial abuse initially trust their partner, believing they are acting in their best interest. The gaslighting and vague explanations are designed to disorient you, to make you feel like you're the one who's being unreasonable. Slowly, subtly, Eleanor's financial autonomy, her very independence, was being eroded, leaving her feeling increasingly dependent and helpless. Money, she was learning, wasn't just about wealth. It was about power, and Elias was meticulously consolidating it. As Elias tightened his financial grip, he also began systematically isolating Eleanor from her lifelines, her family, and her best friend Maya. He'd make excuses for them to skip dinners at her parents' elegant home, claiming her father never truly approved of him, subtly planting seeds of doubt about their genuine affection. "They just don't understand our kind of love, Eleanor," he'd sigh dramatically, painting himself as the misunderstood hero. When Maya tried to reach out, phone calls would go unanswered. Elia would often forget to tell Eleanor about the missed calls, or insist Eleanor was too busy with him, creating a wedge between them. "Maya is just jealous of our happiness," he'd insinuate, feeding into Eleanor's subconscious desire to be seen as uniquely loved. Eleanor's vibrant social life, once bustling with events and connections, dwindled to almost nothing. Her performance at Vance Healthcare Investments, once stellar, began to suffer. She missed deadlines, her focus wavered, and she found herself constantly exhausted, mentally and emotionally. She felt like a stranger in her own life, a puppet whose strings were being pulled by an unseen hand. The constant criticism, the financial evasions, the emotional isolation. It was a slow, suffocating dance that left her breathless. An abuser's playbook often involves systematically isolating you from your support system. They know that your strength lies in your connections. Remember, those who truly love you will never make you choose between them and your partner. They will celebrate your relationships, not try to dismantle them. Eleanor, once so strong and independent, was becoming a shadow of her former self, completely ensnared in a web she was only just beginning to realize was deadly. This quiet suffocation, this subtle erosion of her being, was leading her to a precipice. The next revelation would be not just a crack in Elias's facade, but a shattering blow that would force Eleanor to confront the chilling truth. The man she thought she married might never have existed. The subtle stings from Elias grew sharper, more frequent, no longer just playful teasing. They became open criticisms, often delivered in public, designed to chip away at Eleanor's very core. He began to weaponize stereotypes, a chilling tactic that cut deeper than any casual insult. Eleanor, a brilliant financial strategist, had always prided herself on her directness, her assertiveness in the male-dominated world of high finance. It was a strength she had cultivated, a necessary shield against the biases she faced as a black woman in corporate America. But Elias twisted this into a flaw. "You're too direct, Eleanor. People don't like that. It makes you seem aggressive," he'd sneer, sometimes in front of her friends, sometimes even her clients. The word aggressive hung in the air, a loaded term that every black woman in her position had learned to dread. It was designed to dismiss her passion, to silence her voice, to make her doubt the very qualities that had driven her success. Every client negotiation she recounted, every confident decision she made, Elias would find a way to twist it, to make it sound like a failing. This was intersectional abuse, leveraging existing societal prejudices against her to further gaslight and control. He was eroding not just her confidence, but her sense of self, making her feel like her very essence was wrong. The financial erosion continued, a slow, silent hemorrhage of her wealth. Elias's investments became increasingly vague, the amounts growing larger, the explanations more nonsensical. Her personal assistant, a trusted employee from her family firm, once discreetly tried to warn her, mentioning unusual large transactions, not linked to any of Elias's known projects. Eleanor, in her state of emotional exhaustion and desperate hope, had snapped, accusing her assistant of being nosy, a reaction she would deeply regret later. This is a crucial point. Victims of manipulation often become fiercely defensive of their abuser, even against those who genuinely care about them. The gaslighting runs so deep that they begin to internalize the abuser's narrative, believing they are protecting their love or truth. The crushing weight of Elias's control was becoming unbearable, pressing down on every facet of Eleanor's life. Her work performance plummeted, She missed critical deadlines, her mind constantly preoccupied with Elias's latest demands or veiled criticisms. The project she had poured her heart into faltered. Her vibrant energy dimmed, replaced by a constant state of anxiety and self-doubt. The lively, confident Eleanor Vance was fading, replaced by a nervous, hesitant shadow. Then came the shattering blow, the ultimate unveiling. It was a Tuesday afternoon, a particularly grueling day at the office. Eleanor was sifting through Elias's mail, something she rarely did, looking for a misplaced insurance document. Tucked among the bills and junk mail, her fingers brushed against a glossy travel brochure. It was for the Maldives. Her heart fluttered. Had Elias planned a surprise trip for them? A gesture to make amends? A flicker of the old hope reignited. But then she saw the confirmation email. Not for them, just for him. A lavish, weeks-long itinerary booked in his name alone, complete with first-class tickets and a private villa. The date was for her upcoming birthday, a date he had claimed he needed to be out of the country for a business emergency. Eleanor's hands trembled as she clutched the printout. The carefully constructed facade, the one she had so desperately wanted to believe in, began to crack, then splinter. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was cold, calculated deception. When Elias returned home that evening, whistling a jaunty tune, Eleanor was waiting in the living room, the Maldives itinerary clutched in her hand like a weapon. "What is this, Elias?" Her voice was barely a whisper, but it sliced through the silence. His immediate reaction was a flicker of surprise, quickly replaced by a storm of anger. "What are you doing going through my mail, Eleanor? You're snooping. Are you serious right now?" He moved towards her, his voice rising, venom dripping from every word. "This is my money, Eleanor. I've been the one keeping us afloat while you play at being a career woman. You're nothing without me, and if I want a damn trip, I'll take one." The words, raw and brutal, shattered her last vestiges of hope and trust. The man she thought she married, the one who saw her and not her wealth, never existed. He was a phantom, a meticulously crafted illusion designed to exploit her deepest vulnerabilities. True strength isn't about enduring limitless pain. It's about recognizing when enough is enough and finding the courage to walk away, even when the path is uncertain. In that moment, looking at the monstrous stranger standing before her, a profound shift occurred within Eleanor. The weight of her belief in him, that crushing burden, finally crumbled, revealing something else, a fierce primal spark of self-preservation. She remembered the Eleanor Vance who had graduated at the top of her class, the woman who commanded respect in boardrooms, the daughter of a powerful family who had never backed down from a fight. That woman, bruised and battered, was still there, buried deep beneath the layers of manipulation, and she was ready to fight for her life back. The stage was set for a public confrontation, a desperate act of defiance that would either break her completely or finally set her free. The air in the Vance estate felt thick with unspoken words, with the silent tremors of Eleanor's shattered world. But amidst the wreckage, a new, fierce resolve began to ignite within her. She was done. Done with the lies, done with the control, done with shrinking herself to fit into a mold Elias had created. She knew she had to confront him, to sever the invisible chains that bound her, and she decided it would be in a place where his carefully constructed facade would be most vulnerable, in public. Eleanor meticulously planned their final dinner. She chose one of Charleston's most exclusive and intimate restaurants, the Azalea Room, a place known for its refined elegance and discreet clientele. For this pivotal evening, she chose to wear the emerald green gown her mother had given her years ago, a symbol of resilience, a silent armor. As she slipped it on, she felt a flicker of the old Eleanor, the strong, confident woman she had been before Elias. This wasn't just a dress. It was a uniform for the battle she was about to wage. Elias arrived, impeccably dressed, radiating his usual confident charm. He greeted her with that familiar crooked smile, but his eyes, sharp and calculating, lingered on her dress. "You look expensive," he'd said, a casual compliment that felt like a subtle jab, a reminder of the very thing he sought to exploit. He ordered for her without consulting her, as always, assuming her preferences, dominating the conversation with anecdotes about his latest big deal, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath Eleanor's composed exterior. She let him talk, observing him with a chilling detachment she hadn't known she possessed. Every boast, every dismissive wave of his hand only solidified her resolve. The dessert course arrived, a delicate chocolate lava cake, rich and decadent. This was her moment. Eleanor took a deep breath, her voice steady, clear, cutting through the low hum of conversation in the sophisticated room. "Elias," she began, a hint of steel in her tone. "Why don't you handle the bill tonight? You've been so generous lately, arranging all those investments. It's my turn to let you take care of things." A beat of silence. Elias's easy smile faltered. His eyes, usually so confident, darted around the room before locking onto hers. He had not expected this. His jaw tightened. "What are you trying to prove, Eleanor?" he hissed, his voice low, laced with venom. "You think you're better than me because you have Daddy's money? You're pathetic. Always so desperate to show off." His words were a desperate lashing out, an attempt to regain control, to diminish her, as he always did. But this time, it failed. Eleanor met his gaze, her own eyes unwavering. "No, Elias," she said, her voice rising slightly, clear enough to be heard by the neighboring tables. "I am not trying to prove anything. I'm just trying to understand where all our money has gone. The money I earned." And that's when his mask completely shattered. The meticulously crafted charm, the sophisticated facade, crumbled into a furious, guttural snarl. With a sudden, shocking movement, Elias grabbed the dessert plate. He didn't just put it down, he hurled it. The chocolate lava cake, once an elegant treat, flew across the table, splattering against Eleanor's face and the front of her emerald green gown with a sickening squelch. The soft hum of conversation in the restaurant died instantly. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Forks clattered onto plates. Eyes widened, some in shock, some in disgust. For a single, agonizing second, Eleanor froze. The sticky, sweet chocolate dripping down her face, blinding her left eye. The humiliation was profound, public, and absolute. But then, something extraordinary happened. The immediate shock gave way not to tears, not to collapse, but to a chilling, almost supernatural calm. It was as if the splattered cake wasn't an assault, but a final grotesque piece of a puzzle clicking perfectly into place. This wasn't just about money or control. It was about outright contempt, a complete disregard for her dignity. This was him, truly. With deliberate, almost serene movements, Eleanor reached for her napkin. She slowly, precisely wiped the chocolate from her face, her eyes never leaving Elias's. His face, contorted in a mixture of fury and dawning panic, was truly hideous. When her face was clean, and her eyes, now clear and sharp, fixed on him, she spoke. Her voice, though quiet, resonated with an undeniable power that silenced even the lingering whispers in the room. "This is over, Elias," she said, each word a hammer blow. "Everything. Your charade, your control, our marriage." Without another glance at him, without a shred of hesitation, Eleanor Vance stood up, her head held high, the stained emerald gown now a symbol of defiant strength. She walked out of the azalea room, leaving behind the stunned silence, the shattered dessert, and the man who had just publicly revealed his true, monstrous self. Sometimes, the most humiliating moments become the greatest catalysts for freedom. When an abuser crosses that undeniable line, they inadvertently empower their victim to finally walk away, to reclaim their narrative, and to start the arduous, yet ultimately liberating, journey of rebuilding their life. Eleanor had been pushed to the absolute brink, but in that moment of public degradation, she had found her unshakable resolve. The next step wouldn't be easy, but she knew, with absolute certainty, that she would never again allow herself to be silenced, controlled, or diminished. Her journey back to herself had truly begun. The cool night air of Charleston was a balm against Eleanor's burning cheeks, a stark contrast to the suffocating heat of the restaurant. The chocolate-stained dress clung to her, a grotesque trophy of Elias's final desperate act. But as her heels clicked against the pavement, a profound sense of clarity washed over her. The humiliation was real, yes, but so was the liberation. She was free, and she knew exactly where she needed to go. She drove through the night, the familiar highways leading her back to Atlanta, back to the sprawling Vance estate. Her parents' home, once a symbol of the gilded cage, now felt like a sanctuary. The double doors swung open before she even reached them. Her mother, Isabella, standing framed in the doorway, her elegant composure melting into raw concern at the sight of her daughter. "Helena, my darling, what happened?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Eleanor didn't speak immediately. She walked past her mother, into the grand foyer, the familiar scent of polished wood and her mother's signature gardenias enveloping her. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to truly relax, her shoulders slumping under the weight of exhaustion, but also under the immense relief of being home. Her father, Reginald, appeared at the top of the sweeping staircase, his normally stern expression replaced by one of profound worry. He descended quickly, his hand reaching for hers. "Eleanor, are you all right?" Eleanor took a deep, shuddering breath. "No, Daddy," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm not." In the warmth of their living room, surrounded by plush armchairs and framed photographs of a happier past, Eleanor recounted everything. She spared no detail: Elias's subtle criticisms, the financial manipulations, the insidious isolation, and finally, the public humiliation at the restaurant. Tears streamed down her face, not of sorrow, but of release. "I don't know how I let it get this bad," she sobbed. "I kept telling myself things would get better, that I just needed to try harder. But I can't anymore. I'm done." Isabella moved to sit beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "You don't need to do this alone, darling. We're here for you, whatever you need." Reginald nodded, his jaw tight with a quiet fury Eleanor rarely saw. "You've put up with more than anyone should, Eleanor. It's time to take back control of your life. You've always been strong, stronger than you realize. And now you're taking that strength back?" Their words, simple yet profound, felt like a lifeline. For so long, Eleanor had believed she had to face her struggles alone, that admitting she needed help was a sign of failure. But here, in the unwavering embrace of her family, she realized how profoundly wrong she had been. The very next morning, the reclaiming began. Reginald immediately connected Eleanor with Lena Dubois, a formidable divorce attorney renowned for her sharp intellect and unwavering tenacity. Lena's office, sleek and modern, felt like a war room. "You have a strong case, Eleanor," Lena stated, her voice calm but firm. "As Eleanor recounted the years of manipulation, we will gather every piece of evidence of financial exploitation, emotional abuse, and any other misconduct Elias might try. He will try to fight back, but I assure you, we will be prepared." And fight back, Elias did. As the legal wheels began to turn, Elias launched a vicious smear campaign. He spread insidious rumors among their mutual acquaintances, claiming Eleanor had abandoned him, that she was selfish and ungrateful, a spoilt heiress who couldn't handle a real marriage. Eleanor heard the whispers, saw the averted gazes, the raised eyebrows at social events she forced herself to attend. It stung, a fresh wound on her still healing soul. But this time, she refused to shrink. Instead, she leaned into her support system. Maya, her best friend, became a constant presence, offering unwavering support, a listening ear, and the occasional dose of tough love. Her parents' home remained a refuge, a place where the stress of legal battles and public gossip could momentarily fade. Eleanor threw herself back into her work at Vance Healthcare Investments, finding solace and purpose in the complex financial projects she had once loved. She was no longer just surviving, she was actively, meticulously building an unbreakable foundation for her new life. When facing adversity, your tribe is your armor. Lean on those who truly see and value you, and let their belief in you drown out the noise of your critics. Eleanor understood that Elias's threats, his desperate attempts to control the narrative, were not signs of his power, but of his fear. He was losing his grip, and his lashing out was merely the death throes of his manipulative reign. She was stronger now, more resolute, and she wasn't going to let him dictate her life any longer. The stage was now set for the final decisive battle. A courtroom showdown where the truth would finally be laid bare, and Eleanor would reclaim not just her assets, but her very identity. The day of the divorce hearing dawned crisp and clear, a stark contrast to the storm that had raged in Eleanor's life for so long. The courthouse in Fulton County felt imposing, a bastion of justice, where truths would be laid bare. Eleanor arrived, flanked by her parents and Lena Dubois, her formidable attorney. She wore a simple, elegant navy suit, a quiet declaration of her renewed strength. As she walked through the echoing halls, she felt a profound sense of purpose, not of vengeance, but of vindication. The courtroom was a sterile, hushed space. Elias was already there, looking impeccably groomed, a forced air of injured innocence about him. He barely glanced at Eleanor, a subtle sneer playing on his lips as if to say, "You can't touch me." But Eleanor's gaze was steady, unwavering. She saw through the charade, knowing the monster that lurked beneath his polished veneer. Lena Dubois, sharp and strategic, presented their case with surgical precision. She laid out the meticulously gathered evidence, the unauthorized withdrawals, the hidden accounts, the patterns of emotional manipulation, the specific dates Elias had cut off Eleanor from her support system. One by one, witnesses testified, her personal assistant, who detailed the suspicious financial transactions, and even some of their mutual acquaintances, who cautiously corroborated Elias's increasingly controlling behavior. Then, it was Eleanor's turn. She walked to the witness stand, her heart pounding, but her resolve unyielding. The judge, an elderly woman with kind but piercing eyes, nodded for her to begin. Eleanor took a deep breath, her voice clear and strong, filling the hushed courtroom. "Your Honor," she began, her gaze briefly sweeping across the room, past Elias, to her parents, and Maya in the gallery. "I stand before you today, not just as Eleanor Vance, but as a woman who lost herself in a relationship built on manipulation and deceit." She recounted the years of abuse not with anger, but with a quiet, devastating truth. She spoke of the subtle criticisms, the isolation, the gaslighting that made her doubt her own sanity. She detailed the financial exploitation, the insidious way Elias had slowly siphoned away her autonomy, piece by piece. She even spoke of the incident at the Azalea Room, not to sensationalize, but to illustrate the ultimate culmination of his contempt. "I stayed," she said, her voice catching slightly, but quickly regaining its strength. Because I believed things would get better. I kept trying to fix what wasn't broken by me. But I realized that no amount of effort could change someone who didn't want to change. I deserve better, and every person deserves to live a life free from control and fear. As she spoke, a remarkable thing happened. Elias, who had maintained his smug, dismissive posture throughout the earlier testimonies, began to shift uncomfortably. His eyes darted nervously. When Eleanor recounted the cake incident, a flicker of raw, unadulterated panic crossed his face. He saw the truth in her eyes, the undeniable conviction that now radiated from her. He was disarmed, his carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of her powerful, authentic story. The judge listened intently, occasionally nodding. When Eleanor finished, a profound silence fell over the courtroom. Elias's attorney made a half-hearted attempt at cross-examination, but Eleanor met every question with calm, factual answers, leaving no room for doubt. The verdict came swiftly, decisively. The judge's voice was firm as she read the ruling. Eleanor Vance was granted a full divorce. She retained full ownership of her premarital assets and properties. Elias's counterclaims were dismissed, and he was ordered to repay every cent of the misappropriated funds, with interest. The judge's pronouncement was not just a legal outcome. It was a profound declaration of Eleanor's freedom, her vindication. Justice isn't just a legal outcome. It's the profound sense of reclaiming your power, your story, and your peace. A wave of immense relief washed over Eleanor. It wasn't just about the money or the property. It was about standing in her truth, facing her abuser, and winning back her sense of self. Outside the courthouse, the sun shone brightly, reflecting off the glass towers of downtown Atlanta. Maya ran to embrace her, tears streaming down her face. Her parents wrapped her in a fierce, proud hug. Eleanor looked up at the sky, a quiet toast to the journey that had brought her here. Her life, post-divorce, became a testament to true resilience. Eleanor didn't just rebuild, she built anew. She poured her renewed energy into Vance Healthcare Investments, not just as a duty, but with a vibrant passion. She spearheaded a groundbreaking initiative mentoring young Black professionals from underrepresented backgrounds, ensuring they had the resources and support she wished she'd had. Inspired by her own experience, she established the Vance Legacy Foundation for Survivors, a nonprofit dedicated to providing financial literacy, legal aid, and emotional support for women escaping abusive relationships. She shared her story publicly, not as a victim, but as a survivor, a beacon of hope. Her message resonated deeply, empowering countless others to find their own voices and reclaim their lives. Eleanor Vance, the woman who had once been a figurehead, was now an undeniable force. She had found her true purpose, not in managing wealth, but in empowering others. One evening, months after the verdict, Eleanor stood on her penthouse balcony, a glass of sparkling water in hand. The Atlanta skyline twinkled like 1,000 tiny promises, each one a testament to the endless possibilities ahead. She thought about the woman she had been when she first met Elias, bright-eyed and hopeful, but uncertain of her worth. She thought about the years she had spent dimming her light to let someone else shine. And she thought about the woman she was now, strong, independent, and unafraid to take up space in the world. She raised her glass to the skyline. "To new beginnings," she whispered, her voice steady and sure. The scars of the past would always be there, but they no longer defined her. She was free. Free to live, to love, to dream. And she was just getting started. Thank you for listening to Eleanor's incredible journey. If her story resonated with you, remember, your power is within you. You are worthy of respect, love, and a life truly your own. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories of triumph and resilience. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, because sometimes hearing another's fight gives us the courage to start our own. Check out our other videos for even more inspiring content. See you soon.